Hello everybody, Ian Robson here. Welcome back to Fishing Planet. Today we are in Alberta. So this is White Moose Lake, Alberta. This is the new map they just released just recently for the Christmas time. As you can see, we have the Christmas lights all up here and all this jazz. And yeah, this is the new map they just released, I guess a couple days ago. And it's a really cool little lake. Here's what it says about Moose Lake. White Moose Lake is just one of those fantastic places with a special, never-ending air of holiday season. The western bank of this abysmal mountain lake, abysmal, that's what it says, yeah. Lake with crystal clear, deep waters, has a vacation spot, no other, a magic place that pulls you right into the flamboyant childhood world of Christmas carols. Here atop the rocky shoreline, with perfectly polished boulders covered with enchanting white snow, next to a long wooden pier, stands a marvelous cozy fisherman's cabin known by the locals as Santa's Hut. The truly magical atmosphere of this remote and fantastically picturesque fishing location will make you believe in love at first sight, offering unmatched opportunities for fishing. Especially if you are targeting trout and salmon, this fishing spot is a place to be for all those eager to enjoy the natural wonders of Christmas. Alright. Anyways, that's what it says about that. Alright, so here we are. This is what the map looks like once you're actually inside of it. It's a pretty nice little map, actually. And because we have the holiday time, they have fireworks you can set off as well. So I can set up some off right here. There you go. So you set off fireworks, and you can actually get special fish based on those fireworks as well. You get something called furry trout, which are the type of fish you can catch when you set off the fireworks. Anyways, let's do a little bit of fishing here. So right here, I'm using the shad, 7 centimeter shad. This is called green grass, I believe this one's called. I've caught fish on other ones as well. You can catch ones on stuff like, I think most of the shad ones you can catch fish on. This one I just had a fair bit of luck with. This one and there's a red and yellow one I've used, which I've also had a pretty good luck on as well. So I'm using a 25 gram jig head, which I think is a ounce, I want to say it is. A 1 ounce jig head, something in that area. This is a 4/0 hook on it. So it's a fairly large hook, and as you can see, this lake is fairly deep actually. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do stop and go here, but I'm terrible at it. So that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to catch some lake trout, because lake trout give you some good experience as well as some good money as well. So that's what we're trying to catch here today. Hopefully we catch some, but if we don't, well, that's fine too. Just the way it goes sometimes. And like I said, trying to do stop and go with this particular jig head. Now the nice thing about this jig head is that you can really launch it out there because it is so heavy. And I'm just launching out over in this direction just to see if I catch something over there. I've been trying a few different spots, and I've caught a few different types of species. This direction right here that I've been throwing it out to has been pretty good for lake trout. Oh, fish on, nice. So that's what happens when you cast it out there, and you can get a fish right away, as you just saw. Now I'm fishing during the peak time for this particular day, so there's like a few different periods of the day you can fish, and this one is the peak time for this particular, well, this day at least. It's like the morning and the night. So as you can see, they put up quite a bit of fight, and you need a pretty beefy setup for these fish that are on here. There's Atlantic salmon on this map. There's also lake trout, trophy lake trout, furry trout. You don't need as big a gear for, but you definitely need some beefy gear for it. I actually had to go into my settings and actually adjust, not my settings, but my gear, and adjust some of the gear I was using, because I was getting some really large fish in here, and the rods I was using weren't quite as good as I would like them to be. So they were risking the risk of breaking and whatnot. So as you can see, I'm putting quite a bit of tension on this particular fish, and still it manages to get away from me. So if I can turn the sound up here, you can hear the drag system just getting peeled out every now and then. So if I just hold it here, there it goes. So just going out. So one of the big keys, if you're fishing for like lake trout or Atlantic salmon on this map, make sure you have a lot of line on your reel, because they can really take you for a run. So I'm 67 meters out there, 67 meters, not feet. So it's pretty far out there. I don't know if that would be in feet, but it's for a good distance out there. So you need to make sure you have quite a quite a good amount of line on there. So, and these fights can actually take quite a long time. Like if you're just sitting here chilling out trying to catch some fish, it can take quite a bit of time depending what you're catching. Like if you're catching lake trout or salmon, both of them can take quite a bit of time to actually reel in. If you catch a furry trout, though, it's not as bad. It's pretty easy. It's in comparison to these fish, it's really easy to try and actually reel them in. So it's not so bad. But the lake trout are just monsters, and like the average lake trout's about 4 kilograms, like between 3.5 and 4 kilograms, somewhere in there. And that's like what, 10 pounds ish, somewhere in that area. Not 10 pounds, less than that, I guess it would be. No, that's right, something like that. Anyways, I forget what the conversion is. I don't know why. But yeah, you can. It takes quite a bit of time actually. The biggest fish I've caught, I think, is a trophy lake trout on this particular map. I don't think I've caught any trophy Atlantic salmon yet, but you can definitely. I'm sure there are some here. Some unique. I know there's a unique lake trout, and there's also a unique. I think there's a unique Atlantic salmon as well. But I haven't caught the unique lake trout or salmon. But I have caught the unique furry trout. So the only way you can actually catch the furry trout is by fishing while someone's firing off fireworks. So as you can see, we're still fishing this. This is this one fish right here. We're just reeling in here. But I really like this map. It's a really gorgeous location, and it just looks really nice. And one of the funny things is that it's in Canada too, so maybe I'm partial to it. Now, one of the little tricks I find is if you look down, you actually collect the fish quicker. So there we go. There's it's Atlantic salmon. There you go. No restrictions because I have the license for it, and you get 140 experience. So as you can see, I'm about halfway through level 15 now, and that's from all of those salmon and trout and whatnot. So let me show you what the fish I've caught so far. So here's what I have. So that fish that we just caught is giving me $40, and it gave me 140 experience. So if I can bring up the information, actually just give it. So specimen weighing as much as 25 kilograms. So I haven't seen any that big yet. So that's a 3.9 kilogram Atlantic salmon, and they can get up to 25 kilograms apparently. I don't know if they actually will in this game or not, but that's the size that you can get it to, which is pretty crazy. So let me show you my setup real quick here. This is what we're using. We're using a Value Cast 160. So that's one of the very early rods you can get actually. It can hold 2 to 3.5 kilogram pound test. I think it's up to 7. I think it's 7 or 8 pound test, something like that. Moderate fast action. It's and we're using the Attorney 2000P reel here, which is can take up to 0.2 millimeter fishing line here, and it has a max drag with 3.7. So we're using 0.18 millimeter. Oh my goodness, fishing line. There we go. So that's what we're using right there. And the leader doesn't make a difference here, but that's what we're using to catch these fish. So I'm catching on that setup right there. I'm catching both Atlantic salmon and lake trout. So you can catch burbot as well on it. So like I've caught burbot like in this little area right here, and you can catch over on the other side over here. You can catch pike over there, brook trout, and I think you can catch salmon and trout over there too. Although I haven't had as much luck. So anyways, decided to do a little update of what I've been doing on Fishing Planet, because I have been playing this game quite a bit. So this is for like cast fishing. If you want to float fish, this is the setup I'm using. I'm using natural eggs with a 4/0 hook, and we can do the same thing. If we just cast out there, we want to go as far as we possibly can, and just wait for the fish to hit the line, basically. Now, I've only caught Atlantic salmon on my float setup on this map. I haven't caught any lake trout on the float setup. So if you've caught some lake trout on this map with a float setup, let me know. I'd be kind of curious to find out. But so far, the only fish I've caught have been Atlantic salmon on this particular setup. So keep that in mind. So one of the things you have to be careful with the floats is I've done this a couple times. Is if you don't pick up the slack a little bit every once in a while, well, what will happen is when you go to do the strike, you'll actually miss the fish. So keep that in mind, actually, because I have definitely messed that up more than once now. So it's kind of an interesting little time. So let me see if I can catch something on the float, and I'll be back when I do. All right, so we just got a fish on. Couldn't hit the button fast enough, apparently. We got a fish on, natural legs, just facing right in front of us there. and this is probably an Atlantic salmon is my guess. So same thing, it takes a little bit of time to get these guys in because they are pretty big fish. Theoretically, if you had a larger, stiffer rods, I guess it'd be easy to pull them in, but in this game it doesn't seem to factor that in a lot yet. Maybe in the future, but at this particular time it doesn't, so it'll be a slow grind. So these guys are, I don't mind float fishing for them. I've been using natural eggs, which you can get at a fairly low level, I think. I'd have to check that, but I think it's a fairly low level. The 4-aught hooks, maybe you can't get at such a low level, but if you're coming here to fish for like those types of things, you should be able to catch them on most things. So like this particular bait says specifically for trout and salmon, although I've only caught salmon on it so far, but theoretically you're supposed to be able to catch trout as well. I haven't caught any lake trout on it, but I think it's just because the leader can't go far enough, basically. So, but these guys do fight quite a bit. So if you don't want to fiddle around with casting lures all the time and stuff like that, float setup can easily work. Generally, the float rods actually are a bit. They can actually handle a bit bigger line or stiffer line. It's not stiffer line in this context. A stronger line, and you can actually catch some of the big fish with it too and get some good experience. So like, I'm level 15 right now, and I was getting 150 experience per fish. So before I was at New York, and I was catching walleye for like 50 experience roughly. So the amount of experience I get here is like considerably better than in New York. So I've actually gone up like almost 2 levels since they released this map. So just put into perspective, it's pretty a fairly good map for leveling if you want to level. So in comparison to other species, of course, too. So there are some other species they added in the latest patch as well, which means that you can catch some other types of fish relatively well. On this map, you can catch other types of fish. You can get suckers, apparently, white suckers. You can also get some types of minnows as well. So it basically can be like any type, quite a few different types of fish. So this is what happens with these Atlantic salmon. You get them close and they might go for another run. So we got them at 4 meters here. And let me just look down. There we go. Perfect. So there we go. Atlantic salmon, 132 experience, 3.7 kilograms. So keep that. So that's the float setup. So what I was doing is I was casting just out in front of me right here. About the key mark was about 40 meters from me is where I started catching fish in that area. So here's my float setup here. I'm using a Nero 390 as my rod, and an Aspira MLR 2000 as my reel, and it has 4.7 kg of drag, and we're using where's my line? Braided line at 0.2 millimeter. So I think we're using the same line in both setups, and I'm using the chubby bobber, which is good for casting, the 4-aught hook, natural eggs, and yeah, that's my setup for there. And that was the other one we were using before. So those are the 2 setups I use for catching fish on the new Canadian map. Really cool map. Definitely, if you like Fishing Planet and you like this game, definitely worth checking out the new map they just released. It is pretty nifty. So anyways, that'll be it for me for today. There's the catches of the day. Early morning. So as you can see, you get a little bit more money for Atlantic salmon, it seems like. So anyways, all right, folks, that'll be it for me for today. It's been another episode of Fishing Planet. If you enjoyed yourself, please hit that subscribe button. It's much appreciated. My name's Ian Robson, and I'll catch you guys later.